Patrick McNeil back here with you at the intermission as we continue on with our Around the CHL series. We continue our look at the East Division in the Ontario Hockey League with Kenny Walls, the play-by-play man of the Ottawa 67s. The East Division contains the 67s, the Kingston Frontenacs, the Oshawa Generals, the Peterborough Petes, and the Hamilton Bulldogs. We bring you now to part 2 of my conversation with Kenny. I wanted to go back to Kingston because the big story there is Shane Wright comes in, 2004 born player, exceptional status. How big is he to that team? Obviously, they need the help finishing last in the OHL. Have you had a chance to watch him, and what is he projecting like in the early stages?
I've been able to watch him live twice. The first time was uninspired. It was one of his first games. I think it was the second weekend of the season, and he hadn't really found things at that point. The second time, if memory serves correct, he didn't get on the scoreboard again, but he was an impact player in that game more so than the opener. I was impressed with what I saw. The development in just that short period of time was phenomenal. You can see that he's going to be a star in this league over the next 3 years, maybe more, depending on how things go. But he doesn't have a whole lot to work with around him. Same as Connor McDavid in his first year. You could see the potential there, and McDavid was more flashy than Wright has been. There just isn't a whole lot there, and it wasn't until Dylan Strome went in the next year with the second or third overall pick that it started to really generate in Erie, and that's when they started their run of consecutive 50-win seasons. It's going to take time for Kingston as well. Right now, they're bound for another last-place finish. They made a trade to acquire an overage goaltender this week. We'll see if that helps turn things around, but right now they just don't have a whole lot in the tank, and it's going to be tough for Shane Wright the rest of the year, but things are looking up down the road for the Frontenacs.
The Memorial Cup will come to Ontario in 2021. Do we know who's bidding on that in terms of teams in the East Division? It looked like Oshawa was going to put in a bid, which could potentially change up their plans to be a contender this year.
I was actually looking at this the other day, and it doesn't make sense for, I think, 17 or 18 of the other OHL teams, maybe even 19, to put in a bid. Either they don't have the rink for it, they don't have the team, and they're not in their cycle to make a play for it, or it won't work out because of the city that they're in. Saginaw, I think, if they were in Ontario, would have a chance at it. Same thing with Flint, as they're in the upward swing of their build. But being in Michigan isn't going to help their cause at trying to bring in the Memorial Cup. It makes sense for Oshawa from a number of different factors. Ty Tullio's dad, Rocco, owns the team. His son is 17 years old, will be 18 next year. They're building around him, and that's evident. I would assume that they'll do the same thing this year as they did last year, and that's sell off a couple of older pieces, bring in maybe a player who's a year younger or 2 years younger, again, help build up for that Memorial Cup bid for next season. That's the only team that realistically has an opportunity to bid, host, and be successful next year, and nobody else has the rink or the team for it, in my mind anyway.
Very interesting where they are such a strong team that they would have to take a step back. Quickly wanted to hit on some younger players that you'd be familiar with. Just comes down that Jack Quinn and Marco Rossi are A-listed prospects for the upcoming NHL Draft. And I also wanted to touch on Avery Hayes, who plays for Hamilton. He's a late birthday, so he'd be up for the 2021 draft. Tell us about their potential. Are these 3 first-round picks in the NHL Draft, do you think, and what do their pro careers look like?
I'll start out with the one that I'm not as familiar with, Avery Hayes. I like the player, but I haven't seen enough of him to say that he's going to be a first-round pick. That one just doesn't stand out to me as much as the other two. Marco Rossi is a for sure first-round pick and a top prospect for the 2020 draft. His intelligence level, his work ethic, the way that he thinks the game on the ice, the talent, it's all there. And Marco Rossi is going to be a star in this league and any league he goes to from here on out. He is absolutely a bona fide future superstar, the way that he plays the game. Jack Quinn, to be honest with you, surprised me when I saw that he was an A-listed prospect. And nothing against Jack Quinn. I just didn't know that he had raised his stock to that point. I knew that it was going up with some of the highlight reel goals that he scored, playing alongside New Jersey Devils draft pick Mitch Holscher has really helped him out. And he's got a little bit of a chippy side to him as well. If he sneaks into the first round, I think that's fantastic. But just the fact that he's going to be one of the first 90 guys selected, in my opinion, is going to be quite the feat for Jack Quinn, who, up until his minor midget year at 15 years old, had never played over AA hockey. It's quite the accomplishment to go from that to a few years later being talked about as being a potential first-round pick.
Not the most positive time in Ottawa regarding the Ottawa Senators. Do you feel that the 67s maybe have benefited a little bit from that, the Senators not having the best image at the moment?
That's always the interesting concept in Ottawa, because the Senators are the big fish. Mark Gowdy, the CEO of OSEG, who owns the Ottawa 67s, says that the 67s do better when the Ottawa Senators do better. I found that intriguing, and he went on to explain that when the Sens aren't doing well, ticket prices for them come down. And that directly impacts what the Ottawa 67s do, because the NHL ticket price, it's still a little bit higher than the OHL price. It's not drastic, and people want to go to that top level of entertainment. And while the 67s provide a very good entertainment value, the coaching staff here has done a tremendous job working on their consistency, and what they put out on the ice every game is their best effort. But people want to go see the pros. So while the Ottawa Senators do well, secondary market for tickets becomes a little bit harder, and therefore people trickle down and maybe watch a little bit more of the Ottawa 67s. It's a counterbalance. While the Senators aren't going to make the playoffs this year in all likelihood, that'll benefit Ottawa, the 67s, as they make their playoff push, potentially. It's always that yin and yang balance. You want the Senators to do well for the 67s because it drives more people to hockey instead of to the movie theater or other various forms of entertainment around Ottawa.
Great insight, Kenny, on everything on and off the ice. Thanks for this, and have fun covering the 67s the rest of the season.
Thanks a lot, Patrick. Appreciate it.
That's Kenny Walls. He's the voice of the Ottawa 67s of the Ontario Hockey League, joining us around the CHL. You're listening to The Intermission, Carstar, Cape Breton Eagles Hockey, 1270 CJCB.